Oh, there's no intro. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Verified AMA. I'm your host, Lawton Ho, here with Verified Investing, and I go live every single day that the markets are open from 12:30 to 1:15 to answer your questions. I hope everybody's doing well. Happy Friday. Wow, that kind of messed with me. Um, we just got hopped right into that. Should I play an intro? Anyways, I'm not going to do that. All right, you can tell it's Friday because my brain cells don't have very many of them are wearing thin. How's everybody doing today? As always, I would like to say thank you so much for watching, guys. It means the world to me that you guys are here. Yep, you guys are here experiencing this with me and watching with me. So the way this works is thank you. The way this works is that you guys ask questions and I provide answers. As always, guys, please like and subscribe. It really helps us, really helps our algorithm, helps us know. And I know that you guys enjoy this, and I know you guys tell me in the chat all the time that you love this service and this show, but it helps other people know that they that about the show. Helps my bosses know you like the show. I'm stuttering on words. Okay. My brain is dying. But it's okay. All right, guys. What's going on? What questions do you guys have for me? Christopher says, hi, Lawton. What's up, Christopher? How do you avoid the wash sale when you take a rare loss trading stock? Since you trade almost daily, don't you usually have to wait about 30 days to avoid a wash sale if you're trading before that 30 days total price? No, not usually. I haven't had any issues specifically with day trading these. I literally trade it daily. I traded it today. I didn't make that much money. I made like $500. Like whatever. But anyways. Mike says, what is the levels on the upside you would expect MP and Hood to get to before a sell-off? So it's tough, right? Like trying to predict where something would go. And as you see, I was looking at stocks earlier. Particularly when things are all the way up, it's kind of difficult near all-time highs. MP, what am I about to do? Think in your head, okay, it's going to be too late. I'm going to do it already, but think about it. Where am I about to draw levels of resistance for MP? I think it's very clear. I'm going to draw a trend line like this. A beautiful trend line would be the third hit of this trend line. That's where, although, right, MP did gap up on earnings and sell off, pushed up initially, but it's fallen. You're talking 8%, almost to the flat level. That is extremely bearish. If something opens higher on earnings and sells, that's super bearish. For example, I'll go back to MP afterwards. Look at United Airlines. It was at all-time highs, had earnings, opened the day up 5%, but sold and actually went negative and collapsed as a result of that about 40% before Liberation Day. Like major stuff, guys. So that's extremely bearish for this. So if MP continues to sell, extremely bearish. This could be a huge bearish signal and could mark the top for MP. But for me, just looking at a technical level from the charts, I have this beautiful upsloping trend line that it favors a pullback from. That level would be approximately around $86. Okay, $86. See, as far as Hood is concerned, let's take a look at Hood, Robinhood. Yeah, Robinhood has been quite a monster, pushing past his previous IPO highs. as I keep getting disconnected. Stop doing that. But let's see if we can find a level. You had this nice upsloping trend line that was broken, but the great thing about trend lines is you can continue to adjust them. And there you have it, my new adjusted trend line for Robinhood. Pivot high, previous all-time high. It's making new all-time highs today. But I do anticipate a pullback from this trend line. You're talking about approximately 5% higher at $120. That's my max upside for Robinhood. Aaron says, good morning, Lon. What's up, Aaron? Hope you're well. Hope you are well. I see a downsloping channel for XRP on the daily. We broke out on retracing. Where would you take position? Thank you in advance. Of course. Aaron, happy to do it. You know, I shorted this earlier. You're talking about a downsloping parallel channel. The daily, something like this. Something like this. What are you talking about? Something like this. But anyways, where would I enter for a long? So you saw it get above this trend line, right? Upsloping trend line. And this was the trend line that I used to short XRP last week, and it bounced off of it, took a nice gain on it, took profits here, bounced off of that level, and look at this, guys. It came up, closed above, and retraced to that trend line. So it's funny how these trend lines that used to be support are now resistance. After it turned into resistance, is now support again. If it can break this upsloping trend line, would be potentially good for a short. However, I apologize for the yawning, guys. Man, if you see sideways consolidation, particularly downward sideways consolidation, that could be a signal that XRP wants to go higher. Around $3.60 could be a potential upside target for XRP if it pulls in a bull flag. But let's see. If it does break this trend line again, it does favor a move lower. All right. Dean says swing trade long on Lulu. Let's take a look on Lululemon. Yeah, Lululemon falling significantly. I have 3 positions around 122 to 199. So let's assume that your average is like 195, right? So you're out of the money a decent amount. Okay. Decent amount here. Let's see here. About 4%, but that's not too bad. And you're asking, is this likely going to 180 support now before turning around? Let's analyze the chart. Okay, what levels do we have? Okay, we got some levels here. Sorry if you just got dizzy for me doing that. You have this gap fill here at 181. That should provide a decent bounce. If you're looking at the 180 level or peers to that, there's this pivot low here, 179. Gap fill here at 172. And another one right here at 155. And then, of course, you have the COVID lows all the way to 129 pretty much. But these are my levels on Lululemon for a bounce. 3% lower, 5% lower, 7%, 8% lower, and then 17% lower. These are my levels on Lulu for a bounce. These are areas that likely will provide support for Lululemon. Is it 100% going to bounce there to your break even? Hard for me to say, but I don't yawn the entire day, but as soon as I get into my AMA, sometimes I just start yawning. My AC has been busted. I've had, I don't know how many problems with my house. It's a brand new house, expensive house too. Not fun. So I just haven't been getting much sleep. So I apologize for that. Let's bring the energy up though. Wake up a little. Yusuf says, "Hey Lon, what's up, Yusuf? Thank you for your insight. Thank you for your questions, Yusuf. Silver has been having a good couple of weeks, and so have the silver miners. Let's just look at silver. Yep, absolutely. I had this nice, potential head and shoulders pattern. Not a great one, but it played out to the measured move almost exactly right. Almost exactly. Retrace to this neckline. You see, this is where it's having trouble getting above. But could you look at EXK? Absolutely, I'd be happy to look at EXK. So you see, it's a very similar chart. What do you want to know on EXK? Is this silver mine coming? Do you have any targets on? Does it look bullish or bearish? Ooh, look at this. Look at this. Is that all-time highs? It is not at all-time highs. Still trading down 30% from its all-time highs. So it can definitely go higher. And you had this nice excuse me. I'm just dying today, guys. This might be the last time you ever see me. This nice move up, but this downsloping trend line, right? And it does favor a pullback, but it did just kiss it and pulled back. But, this does look bullish. If you can get above this, and this is a question, this is something I say every day. So, you know it, I know it. It's a teachable moment. Okay, how do we play a trend line? I say this every day, so everyone in this chat should know it. But if this thing breaks above it, you can enter on a break, looking for an up move, or wait for it to retrace before moving higher. So the two entries are the break of the trend line or the retrace to that trend line. This is what I'd be targeting for a move higher on EXK. What you may have happen, though, which would be even more bullish, is a potential inverse head and shoulders. If you have something like this, that's even more bullish on EXK. I like it. Looks bullish even though it's up. Now, you can argue Lawton. And you can be like, Lawton, this is actually bearish because it's a head and shoulders pattern. You're right. It is a potential head and shoulders pattern beginning to form. And in that case, it would be bearish, right? So then it would just be a matter of which pattern plays out first, the head and shoulders pattern or the inverse head and shoulders pattern. If this head and shoulders pattern starts to play out, it would negate this inverse head and shoulders pattern. Again, the inverse head and shoulders pattern looks something like this. Hopefully you guys can understand. But if this shoulder comes down below the head, this is negated and it's now bearish because it's breaking this big head and shoulders pattern. So I see both bearish and bullish patterns on it. It just depends on which pattern plays out. But you can play either, right? The great thing about charts is you don't go in with a bias. You're just looking at things, new things for the very first time, right? Just like, oh, wow, I've never seen any of this before. And in the case of EXK, boom, boom, boom. You can play it for a long or a short, depending on which way it goes. It's more of a continuation trade, but we have no problem doing that. Yusuf, I did just answer that on XRP. Nathan says, good morning, Lon. Tesla seems to be on a roll today. True that, brother. Look at Tesla. I am in the green. Where should I look for an exit? Where is the resistance? It's this nice wedge. But if you can break above this wedge, it actually has further upside. Look at this beautiful wedge that I've drawn on Tesla. Again, You play it the same way as the trend line. You break above, you can go long, you can enter on a retrace. Same thing with the breakdown. You see it, saw it attempted to break down, couldn't, but is still in this massive, massive wedge that could go higher, right? Could go higher. John says, I've been following some shorts and we're out of the money. How do we know when a trade is invalid and to exit? Well, when a trader gives a trade, they often give you a stop out level, right? So if it reaches that stop out level, you can just stop out. Additionally, and everyone's trading style is different. Again, what did I say about the head and shoulders patterns? If I see this, and it attempt to break it, but then it go like this, I will stop out right here because it's gone above this head. Funny shoulder I can do as long as it's still valid. But what I cannot do is a shoulder that's bigger than a head. You saw my demonstration yesterday. My shoulder, no matter how hard I try, I can't get it above my head. When my pattern is negated, when my thesis for getting into the trade has been negated, if I can't find another reason to stay in, I'm out. And the most important thing to do is know that you have the freedom to stop out at any point. If a position is getting a little too hairy and you're not comfortable holding it, then you can stop out. No harm, no foul. You can also play, and I play like this sometimes on my own personal account. I can play with a max loss, right? Say, I don't want to lose more than $1,000 on any given trade. That's my level. No matter what, I stop out there, and I'll look to re-enter in a better time. Let's see here. Wes says, Ola Lawton. Ola Wes, how's it going? Dr. B did a post about Rivian, and on his graph he says there's a bear flag that he labels. I'm just not seeing a bear flag. Can you bring up the chart? Find the bear flag he's referring to. Sure, let's see. Let's see here. Rivian. On bear flag, I mean, you just have this. This is a bear flag. And he's on a different time frame. He's on the hourly or something, right? Yeah, he's on the hourly. This is the bear flag. It's the down move and the upward consolidation like this. This is a bear flag. It's bearish. On Rivian. It's weird on the daily, but he's on the hourly. See what else we got. Marcus says PDD, Pinduoduo, is retracing to the scene of the crime but hasn't popped yet. Time to be concerned. Concerned about this potential head and shoulders pattern. Not particularly. I mean, you can re-enter on this trend line. Donegan says, "Hi Lon, what's up, Donegan? I'm going to move all my money from Robinhood into one of the brokers with TradingView. Which do you recommend? Your forex have 5% bonus to bet." So if you're using TradingView to trade, the one that we use in the office, like some of us, Ben in particular uses one called IBKR, Interactive Brokers. IBKR. IBKR. Bridget says, "Hi there. Happy Friday. What's up, Bridget? Are you running the dividend trader now?" I am running the dividend trader. I'll be posting a video later. Donegan says, "Also on Robinhood, every time I buy, the order goes in at a higher price, and when I sell, order goes a lower price. Is that normal? It feels like a scam." It is. On Robinhood, it is a scam. Yep. You get bad fills on Robinhood. Yeah, Robinhood sucks for that. Wes says, "Can you look at PALL? Here's my chart. Would you agree with these support levels?" Let's see your chart, Wes. I would agree. Nice. Yeah, I had the same line here. Gap fill support. Gap fill support. Gap fill support. Oh, I wasn't putting it in. Gap fill support. Gap fill support. Gap fill support. These are my support levels for Rivian. So we got similar levels. Great job. Yeah, I like them. Great job. Alex says, "Hi, Lon. How are you doing?" I'm good. How are you? Hope you're doing well. Please give me your opinion about IBM entry after a recent drop. Hope you're doing well, Alex. IBM, if you absolutely want an entry, it's dividend day. But right here, 239.53. That's my entry for a long. There's a nice gap fill here, about 1% lower, and that would mean that it fell about 15% from its earnings. If it continues to fall, consider adding at this pivot low, about $15 lower, and every $15 thereafter. Right? Donegan says, "So appreciate your help. Lastly, on TradingView, how do I make a horizontal line? How do I make a parallel line?" Horizontal line, you just click Alt and J. Hold down Alt and J. And how do I make a parallel line? You click here and then click on parallel channel right here. But for horizontal, you just click Alt and J. Michael says, "Hey, Lon, is detail tip." MYXST. It is, yes. Felix says, QQQSPYIWM. You just threw 3 tickers there, Felix. I'd be happy to answer your question, Mr. Yamasato, if you give me some more context. Like if you're talking about day trade, swing trade, long term, short term, whatever. Brucey says, "Bless you, thanks, brother." But if you give me more context, Felix, I'd be happy to look at anything you want. But if you just give me stock tickers, it's kind of difficult for me to help you out. Marcus, can you chart Oklo? Looking to see if supports and fibs are accurate. Okay, hello. So this is a little crazy. So hello for me had this nice trend line. that it did break above, right? One, one, two, three hits, pulled back, tested it again fourth time, tried fifth time, failed, finally broke above, but is now closing down below. What are the levels of support? Well, of course, you have gap fill, and you can tell what type of trader I am and what I like to use as levels of support and resistance. I like these gaps, but also you have a nice kind of upsloping trend line here. Upsloping trend line here that if it breaks, you could see another fall. Right? It would not surprise me if Aqua fell 18% from this level. Definitely favors a pullback after being at all-time highs. Does have earnings in 3 days, though. So what do I always say about earnings, guys? Don't go long or short into earnings. It's really risky. Yes, you can make a lot of money, but you can also lose a lot of money. I'm not interested in that type of risk. Martin says, when looking for a stock to trade, how do you determine whether or not a company is strong? Well, you can take a look at AMD. I would say AMD is stronger because look, it fell off of poor earnings and good news propelled it back up. You can look at Nvidia. So Nvidia is up, 1% today, but comparatively, the S&P is only up 0.7%. If we look at yesterday, the S&P initially popped up but closed negative yesterday. But if we look at Nvidia closed up 1%, right? So it's strong relative to the S&P or the QQQ, which yesterday did close slightly higher. But if the S&P is closing negative and Nvidia is closing positive, Nvidia is strong relative to the rest of the market. Same thing with Apple. Apple's up 5% today. Absolutely crazy move up on Apple, breaking this down sloping trend line today, favoring a move higher. For me, my shortable level on Apple, geez, this thing is kind of a monster, no? These are my levels to short Apple. But Apple is strong. When the market is kind of muted and Apple can be up 4 or 5%, it's either news or it's just strong. There's tons of different ways. Thank you, Lawton. Sarah says, what's up, Sarah? I hope you're doing well. Thanks for being here day in and day out. I really appreciate that. Kathy says, first time asking a question. Well, welcome, Kathy. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to watch me and ask me your questions. Hopefully I can provide some sort of value or insight for you. All right. I apologize in advance if it's a repeat, no problem. Can you look at Palo Alto Networks? Of course. Give me a good idea of some levels to buy for a swing trade. Yeah, so Palo Alto Networks is trading in this beautiful upsloping parallel channel. Actually, is kind of bearish. However, on the bottom of this parallel, you could consider buying over here, somewhere around here, around 160. Additionally, there's going to be a gap fill here at $163.50, basically just around there. And I need to fix this because it's not perfect and my brain explodes if things are not perfect. So around here, around 163.66, 163.50. There's a gap fill that should provide some sort of bounce. How much of a bounce, I'm not quite sure. Hard to say, but it should provide at the least an intraday bounce. You have an additional gap fill over here around 159.86. Best case scenario is Palo Alto Networks hits one of these levels while on the bottom of this parallel channel. Just know that if it breaks this, closes below and confirms, it favors a move lower on Palo Alto Networks. Realistically, I could see this coming down 14% lower, but the bottom of this parallel should provide a decent bounce. Alex says, hi again. What's up, Alex? Hello again to you too. Can you check SMCI as well? Yeah, my levels on SMCI are as follows. for support as it had bad earnings. You're looking 5% lower for the gap fill, additional one at 874. If it keeps coming lower, you have a couple more gap fills. However, here's the thing to remember, right? Is that, let me just finish writing these. SMCI is breaking this upsloping trend line, extremely bearish, gapping down below and continuing to sell, selling past the lows after its earnings, right? After its earnings on Wednesday. So super bearish for SMCI. $43 would be around the level I'd be interested, but also under 41. And as always, guys, you can pause at any time, take a picture, screenshot it, and copy down my charts. This recording is also going to be on YouTube for all of you interested to rewatch this. Yusuf said, just want to say I hope you feel better and get some rest this weekend. Enjoy. Thanks, man. I appreciate that, Yusuf. I hope you get some rest and have some fun this weekend. Joseph says, do you understand why Trump's semiconductor tariffs made prices go up? Absolutely. Because Trump said he was putting 100% tariff on semiconductors produced outside of the United States. But AMD, NVIDIA, Wolfspeed, Taiwan Semiconductor, even though it's called TSM, Taiwan Semiconductor, all of those companies produce semiconductors from within the United States. All of them. So that just means that the competing companies from outside aren't going to be able to get any market share, right? So these American companies are it's actually bullish for them because they're going to keep making money. Because if China comes out with a crazy semiconductor, Trump's going to put 100% tariff on them. Fahim says, hi, Lon, I just heard that Ben is used and some of you guys use IBKR. Me too. What platforms do you guys use? The IBKR desktop or workstation? I've been using desktop. I think I don't use IBKR. I think Gareth uses desktop. Ben uses IBKR on TradingView. So he has it linked up so he can just trade right here on his TradingView. And I use Thinkorswim. So just a different platform. Sarah says, hi, Lawton. Is there such thing as a local topping tail? Sent me a chart. Let's take a look. Thank you for coming in every day, asking questions, and sending charts. Coinbase, okay. You love XLM, don't you? Absolutely love this downsloping trend line. So you had this parallel, this downsloping trend line, broke above, retrace, and finally is pushing above. Looking bullish. Is there a local topping tail? No, it's not a topping tail. Is 33 cents or 37 cents. Good support for XLM. It's not because it's too close. Topping tail, it's not the highs. Is the 33 cent. My support would be here around 36 cents. Chad says, hi, Lon, messaging from the UK. Welcome, Chad. Also yawning at the end of my workday, almost 6 p.m. Dang. Well, thank you for joining me so late on a Friday. I know you have tons of other things you could be doing, so thank you for spending your time, as always, here with me. Thanks for your dedication to these shows and education you bring, of course. Just wondering if you have a swing long level for Dow. Yep, Dow has been in the pooper. Just got long with the 2172 average. After it hit COVID low, expecting a bounce. It barely bounced so far. Ashley Lola, how do you improve the chart? Yeah, this is a great level on DOW, I believe. I mean, it's a decent company, right? It's just, yeah, it went past COVID lows. The problem is a company at the low of the charts, I have like no levels of resistance left. Or support left. Like it's very, very, very difficult for me to find levels of support. I mean, I could draw a trend line like this. Down sloping trend line that could provide support, give you an idea of where it could go. But all I have are trend lines at this point, and that would be 1967, about 7.5% lower. This is the level that I would get in, actually. So it does look good for a bounce. It's just so beaten up, right? So beaten up. But yeah, I would hold and probably add, right? Zach says, where do you think Bitmine is heading in the short term? Bitmine? BMNR? Yeah. This was like a new IPO, right? But it's not something I've traded before, but it did break this down sloping trend line, favoring a move higher. I think there's not a lot of price data here, right? So it's hard for me to give you a good informed decision, good informed insight. However, right here, about 15% higher, $59 and $66 are two levels of resistance that I can foresee on BMNR. Michael says, hi, Lon, what's up? Michael, what are good support and resistance level for SEZL? Sezzle, after yesterday's earnings, thank you. Okay. These are my levels for support on SEZL. Just absolutely crushed all the previous support levels. I mean, for me, this is what I've got pretty much. I mean, let's see if we can draw a trend line. Nah, I crushed that trend line. Absolutely demolished that trend line. All right, well, these are some levels of support on SEZL. You can take a picture, but I have these levels here on SEZL. Derek says, good day, Bank of Ho. Thanks so much, Derek. How's today in the day trading room today? Enjoy your weekend. Thanks, buddy. Live day trading room is pretty decent. I made like $500 on a trade, nothing big. Drew took a $1,600 winner. No, Garrett took a $1,600 winner. Drew took about a 2K winner, and then Garrett took another 2K winner. So 2 plus 2 is 4, 5, like 6,100 around, $6,200 in the live day trading room. Not bad for a Friday. I'll take that $6,200 any day of the week. But yeah, we made $6,200 today. Made a small $500 winner. Not worried about that. Yusuf says, hey, Lon, what's up? Quick question. The silver miner HL, of course, just had an explosive move. Okay, yeah, decent move off of, earnings, sales. Use technologies, would I be able to predict this? No, it moved off of earnings. Absolutely not. I did have this, right, down sloping trend line that it broke above. This moved off of earnings. You can't predict that it was going to go up during earnings, because what happened if earnings are bad? Then you see this, right? So it's coin flip. You can't tell when it's earnings unless you have insider information, which if you do, share that with me. I'm just kidding. I'm not kidding. LCRX, how about shorting LCRX around 104? LCRX, LRCX. This one, LRCX, not LCRX. Lamb Research Company shorting it at 104. What is your reason for that? Do you have any reason? My shortable level would be 107.64. Gap fill there. You have gap window here, but it just went above it. You can probably draw some trend lines, as you always can. Gold reliable trend lines, everybody's favorite. Some trend lines there. Trend lines there. If you draw a trend line here, I can see how you can get that 104 level. But my main target for this would be around 107.64 for a short. It's my tradable level. Paul says bah. Not sure what that means. What says thoughts on BLMN? Let's see your levels. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna be live for man. Okay, we're gonna be live for like a couple more minutes. I'm gonna try and go quicker because it's a Friday. I know you guys want to see your questions answered, but you also want to get out of here. BLM and thoughts on BLM and your levels. I think that chart looks good. That looks bearish to me. Looks bearish to me. Your charts look amazing. Paul said bah. Booz, Allen Hamilton, holding. Bah. Down sloping trend line. If it can break above this, favors a move higher. Andreas says, what's up? Hope you're doing well. What's up, Andreas? LEC traded long, 256, exited 281. Do you think I exited too early for this wedge breakout? Nah, not particularly. I mean, I think it could go a little higher, maybe. But I mean, if you took listen, a win is a win. Don't beat yourself up for taking 10%, bro. If you take 10% on a win, I'd be happy with that. If someone told me, man, I only took 10%, and this is something that Ben says all the time, take out the only. You made 10% on a trade. Congratulations. No need to FOMO. All right, let me go a little faster. GB slices Voyager Technologies. I can't trade this. It's too volatile. I think it's going lower. I have no resistance. There's no price data on this. I don't have anything. GB. QQQ, new to asking questions here. QQQ, no problem, Felix. Happy to have you. Welcome. QQQ towards monthly options expiring next week. Okay, so the QQQ trying to make new all-time highs, trying to push higher. For me, on QQQ, on the Qs, I am generally bearish on it, but you need to see a break of this, right? Kissed it here, but unless it breaks this, it could continue going higher. My level of resistance on the Qs right now sits somewhere here. You have this beautiful kind of pseudo wedge pattern, right? Not the best, but my upside target would be about 0.5% lower or higher, and then I'd short it somewhere around 570 to 580. GB says, is Crocs a good play at 52-week low? I mean, could be. Yes, I do like it, actually. 74.23 looks good. I mean, the level right now looks pretty decent, but it just fell off of earnings. So generally on earnings, I like to wait a couple of days, like at least 5 days for the marks to digest the move. So I'd be more hesitant and look to enter on a pure sub $67. Of course, you can always start a position here and add 10% lower. If that's the case, make sure you go light on your position size. Okay? Always play with a stop. Martin says, that's awesome. Thanks. You're welcome, Martin. Mar says, hi, Lon. I don't trade SUI, but I have a small bag. What do you think the levels in near mid future? My level of resistance is at 396. If it continues higher, 432. And then you have double top here at 447. Those are my levels that I would exit if I was holding the bag, holding a small bag on SUI. Dow, again, on Dow, my level of support is going to be down here somewhere around this trend line around sub $20, but it should get a bounce here. Paul says, can you check the level of bot? I did look at that earlier. Had this parallel channel, start of a head and shoulders pattern. Yeah, this could be also a head and shoulders pattern, right? But this is at the lows of the chart. And what do we know about head and shoulders patterns and bearish patterns at the highs and the lows of the chart? Yes, they're still valid at the lows of the chart, but likelihood is that there's a high likelihood that a bearish pattern plays out at the top of the charts rather than the lows of the charts. However, you can kind of draw a wedge here, right? So we'll see how price action acts, coming into this little wedge. John says, what are you short on long term on GDX? It's just a question about gold, right? So GDX is going to move with gold. I think gold has tried to get above this level. If it can break and hold above, I expect gold to move higher towards new all-time highs. That would be good for GDX, but it has to break this down-sloping trend line. Oh my God. There's so many questions. Guys, it's 1:16. I'm so sorry. I can't get to all these questions. There's at least like 10 or 15 questions. Mar says, hi again, 10 likes, one is mine, but 74 are watching. So yeah, 74 people are watching on your platform, but I can see here that I have like 250 people watching. So because we're on a bunch of different platforms. But guys, I can't answer any more questions. There's like 10 or 15 more questions, and I'm so sorry. But it's already 1:16, and I got to close it. I'm so sorry, guys. Thank you so much for joining and being a part of the Verified Investing community. If you have your questions and remember them, guys, you can send them to me on Twitter. Send them to me on Twitter, and my Twitter handle is @Lawton Investing, and I'd be happy to do some chart analysis and send you a personalized chart or whatever you want. Okay, just send them to me on Twitter @Lawton Investing. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Thanks for spending your Friday with me, guys. If you could, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribe to us on YouTube @Verified Investing. Hope you guys have a blessed and wonderful weekend, guys. Have a great rest of your days. And if you're going to send me something on Twitter, I'll talk to you in a second. Have a great day, guys. Take it easy. Bye-bye.